Not really that cake wall. No, you gotta
All right, so 7.1. I've made this a little bigger because we have to do some drawing on it. Dilations. So it's almost like we're trying to create a congruent triangle, but it's like either a larger version or a baby version. Okay, so basically looking at this first one, it's going to ask us to make another one with the scale factor. What do you think scale factor means?
3 times bigger.
3 times bigger. Okay. And it also says with the center of dilation, so underline that for me too, of R. That just means that's the center of where we're going to use to make it 3 times bigger. All you need to do, and it says method 1, and I'm going to talk about, we're going to use method 1, but we're going to always use method 1, but I'm going to tell you quickly what method 2 is, though it's kind of nonsense if you ask me. I'm going to poke R and draw through K, nice and long. Yes. This is the method that we'll use.
Okay.
Anybody want to guess where K prime is?
3 times the distance from
Yeah. Yes.
Exactly. So I need to measure this as closely as I can.
You do the center of R or the end of R?
The what?
You do the center of R or the end of R?
Center.
Okay.
So I have it roughly, what is that, 18?
17.
17.
Okay.
18.
What's 18 or 17 times 3? Let's do 17.5.
Okay, come on.
It doesn't matter. What is it?
2.1.
52?
52.5.
So here's the catch. This is the mistake that people will make. It's 52 from what?
From K.
From R. From R. So this counts as one of the lengths. We need 3 18s. There's one of them. So you said 52? So K prime. It's on the end. Oh, on the N as in Nancy. So K prime is there.
I have a question. Like,
Yeah.
why do people say like N as in Nancy, P as in here?
Because if I say my name is McConnell, people will say McConnell. I don't know. Because it's hard to understand. Anybody want to guess how to find L prime?
Do the same way.
Do the same thing.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like A.
41.
So I got it at 40.
Yeah, 40.
That means L prime is where?
120.
Yeah, look at that.
Wait, how far are we going?
120.
This next one might be off the page.
Yes, it is off the page. No, it isn't. It's just on the page. Yeah, it shouldn't be off the page.
So then the last one for J prime, it was 29. 29 times 3.
35.
Yeah, I got like something crazy.
I got 34. What was L?
I have 30. I have 34 as well.
Yeah, I got 34.
34 times 3.
I'm thinking 29. 102.
102.
That is off.
That is off the page.
Barely. Don't worry, it's right off. It's like really off.
No, it's off, man. It's off.
I just put it on where I
L? Is it L?
So let's just cheat and put R prime right there.
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna draw it on the deck.
That's a good idea.
I guess I should have done a 2 dilation. Anyways, So now what do you think we do?
Connect the dots.
Connect the dots.
Oh, I like this game. It's bigger.
Not if you play, you have like an 180% of this class.
Nice.
Now, because it was off the page and I just put it on anyways, what's going to be true about this?
Not gonna be congruent.
It's, well,
Not gonna be an exact.
Well, it's not gonna be
Or-
congruent anyways.
Well, I mean, like, not gonna be, what is this?
An exact.
Proportional. That's what I mean.
yeah, it's not exact dilation. Now, we should not, for dilation, we should not use the word congruent. The only thing that ends up being congruent is what?
Transitions, reflections, the angle.
The angles.
Oh.
All three of the angles are congruent.
And then the R.
And usually, when you do a dilation,
Very much.
when you do a dilation, you can kind of see, okay, yeah, that's the same shape. Method 2 says, and I want to point this out to you, method 2 says to do one of these and then find the parallel line for each of them, which I think is, first of all, how do you find parallel lines?
You can find slope.
Same slope, but this isn't on a graph. I mean, if it was on a graph, that would be perfect
We can
method.
make our own line.
So I want to point out to you, yeah, we could put it on a graph, so that this right here is parallel to what?
The other one.
The other one, the prime.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and add this. That means that JL is parallel to JL prime. Oh, I called that R. I should call that J.
That's pretty cool.
And JK is parallel to. How am I showing that these are different and not all parallel to each other? Adding it more arrows. Okay. So they say method 2 says find the parallel. So find this first one and then make a parallel line and make a parallel line, and that's how you find them.
But how you gonna know how far to go?
Yeah.
Infinitely.
So you're gonna know because you'll make, yeah. I don't want to get into that
That
method.
doesn't make sense, because you can make a less like you can make a 2.9 dilation.
I think it only works if we have it on the graph. But even still, not going to worry about it. The only thing I want to point out is that these are parallel. So they may have some questions that say, you know, what's true about KL and K prime, KL prime. And you can say that they are parallel. Okay. Now, the next one. So I want to point out, we're not going to probably even do this because I want to make sure we have plenty of time to do everything else we need to do. So this says scale factor of 1/3. What does that mean? It's going to be smaller. Okay. It also, because m is outside of it, it will be, yeah, we'll go ahead and just do this. So we still draw the length from M to P. And because it's smaller,
You can do a third.
I got to do a third. So I have this length is roughly what? 33. So at 11, I'm going to put P prime. So I don't need to have my line longer. It actually doesn't need to be, it just needs to go to that point and then divide that length by 3 or times it by 1/3, however you want to look at it. I got what, 72 divided by 3?
Oh, that's 18.
18.
That's 24. What?
72 divided by 3 is 24.
Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
When in doubt, just say it very confidently and everyone will
Exactly.
just believe you. So there's my R prime.
But you can't do that on test.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just yell in the middle.
And then M to Q is 71.
What?
Oh,
You're not adding on.
going to R.
It's like 84. I mean, like 84.
Divided by 3.
About 85.
I was going to,
Yeah, it's like 84, 85.
I was going to
That's
28.
28. And because this isn't off the paper, this should have exactly the same angles.
But M's not in it.
M is not the part of the triangle. It is the what? What do they call it? What's the name for M?
Scale factor.
No.
Center of dilation.
Center of dilation. It is the center of dilation. It's telling you how to.
Dilation is not the center of the triangle.
I think I did it wrong.
Now let me ask you this: if I move the center of dilation to say over here, what would be true about the prime that it would create compared to this one?
If they're the same length from the points, it'll be the same shape.
It'll be exactly the same. So no matter where I put this point, it's still going to create the same thing if it's a third. So I could have put the point in the middle. I could put it out here. It doesn't matter. It's still going to make that same shape there. Yeah.
Accidentally did a third bigger.
You went out
Yeah.
a third bigger? You mean 3 times bigger?
He added a third to the distance. He added the third to the distance.
Like.
So one bigger?
Instead of going to 24, he added 24
it by 1/3,
to
then
72.
added that third to the distance.
Because he kept hearing the numbers just added. Yeah. Nice job, Mark.
So what do you need me to do, Mark?
He essentially turned it
Make
into
him
1 and
smart.
1/3. Yeah. Mark was just sharing.
Just sharing.
Mark is sharing his brilliant.
You okay, Mark? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So notation, and now we do have a graph. Anybody want to guess? Actually, it tells us right below it, but if you cover that up, what do you think D sub 3 means? So scale factor. So this is our scale factor right here. So it means 3 times larger. Now, it's pretty cool when it's on a graph, if you ask me, because you can do some things to it. For example, this point A is 2, comma, -1. Yes, A prime is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is off the graph. 6, -3. 1, 2, 3. So A prime is 6, -3. So what did he do to figure out A prime? He just multiplied both those numbers by 3.
And then C will be 9.
C, which is 3, 0. C prime is 9, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm sorry, I don't know why it's off the page. It's really weird.
9 what?
0, because what is 0 times 3? 0. What is the center? What is the center of dilation here? The origin. Okay, so that's important. And then finally, this is -1, 2. So B prime is -3, 4. No.
I got 3, 4. I got 1.
6. -3,
Oh, times 3.
6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Again, every point.
We did not on this one.
Off the page.
Off the graph.
Now I want to point out that if this question just asks you for the ordered pairs, you wouldn't actually have to graph it. You could. And I kind of like graphing it just so I can see, does that look like just a bigger version of the same thing we just made?
It's hard because it's not off the
Ow.
Like, they don't know the points are there.
Right. My scale, when I made these little dots, might not be perfect, but
Yeah, it looks
Close
okay.
enough.
Okay. Ready for the next one? Now it's going to ask us a ton of questions.
Oh.
Mighty ear.
I feel like just
Oh,
look, there's a group quiz.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a group quiz.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay, so I don't think it's a good time to go to the bathroom.
I think it is.
All right, so the dilation here is what? What's our scale factor? Our scale factor is right here. It's 1/4.
What's the center of dilation?
The center of dilation, if it doesn't give you a center of dilation, where is it? It's the origin, okay? So basically, I'm going to take all of my ordered pairs, and I'm going to do what to them? Divide them by 4. Okay, so this one here is 8, 4. Yes.
Oh no.
Do it. And I'll grab you by the
Guys,
throat.
Ryan, stop. 12, -4. And -4 is 0. So if it just, this question just says, what are the vertices? I don't actually have to graph it. But again, I think graphing it kind of makes us feel very confident that it's right. If I divide Q by 4, 3, -1. There's Q prime. 2, 1 is P prime. It's not 0, 0.
It's -1.
-1, 0. Does that make sense? Okay. And if we connect those 3 together, does it look like a smaller version of the big one? Sure does. Okay. It says, what are the vertices? So they actually want us to state them. 2, 1.
I have to go up and forth on R prime.
Say again.
Do I have to go up by 1/4 or down by 1/4 on R prime?
Yes. You divide, basically, times it by 1/4 is the same as dividing by 4. So divide all of them by 4. Q prime is 3, -1. And R prime is -1, 0. So what shape do we have here? What is the formula for triangle? For area.
Oh, it's something by space by time times
1/2 base times height. Height has to be straight up and down.
Wait, 1/2 times
1/2 base times height.
And the reason triangles,
divide the base and multiply by height.
yes. Now, if we call this the base, then the height would be straight up and down this way. Okay? Right. Or what would be a better thing to call the base?
The PQ
If we call this the base, then the height
is already there.
is PR. As long as what's true about this angle?
Perpendicular.
It's got to be perpendicular. How can we determine if that's perpendicular?
Slopes.
Slopes. Am I going too fast?
It's a right angle, then it's a right
What are we
triangle.
calling the base? What is it not?
Oh,
We're
my
going
Lord.
to confuse it. It's not.
It's not.
PR the height then.
It would be the height if this is 90 degrees. If I turned it this way, if I call this the base, then that would be the height. Now, once I turned it,
Okay, we're good now.
okay,
I got it.
it's okay.
Now we got
I was looking at PQ, like P to Q prime. And so I was really turned off. I was like,
So I want to point out that if these slopes, if this is perpendicular, then we can use this. This slope right here is 1/2 negative. No, wait, that's not right. -2. And this slope is 1/3.
1/3.
So what does that mean?
Not perpendicular.
Okay, so it's not perpendicular, so we can't do that. We would have to cut this. Now, I didn't expect to do this. I thought it was going to work out. So we'll just talk real quick.
wouldn't the area just be 3 times bigger?
Good question. So
Or
how can we can, and for the sake of time, I'm going to go quicker. We'll talk about that in just a second. The perimeter. How can we can find the perimeter? How do we do that?
Is that, do we have to do distance formula a bunch?
Distance formula for all three, right?
oh,
We're not going to do it, but we just do the distance formula. How can you find the perimeter if you know this for this?
Divided by 4.
Just divide by 4, okay? Now this is where it gets weird, okay? So the perimeter, or for area, if I just told you, and I'm going to make this up.
can't we find out the area and perimeter?
If I told you that the area of PQR was 15 meters squared. Now let me do 16. And I just made that up, okay? Or unit squared. What would be the area of P prime, Q prime, R prime?
4 meters squared.
It is not 4 meters squared.
No,
It is
because
1/4 of the answer.
No, it is not 16, it's less than that.
It's-
Stop.
this is 16 squared.
This is 16. I made that up. But if that was 16 meters squared, or actually 16 units would be better. Because we don't know what those
I
are.
want it before because it's the area inside.
Now let me talk to you about the formula for the area equals 1/2 base times height.
Yeah,
Oh, wait.
What did we do to the base?
we divided it by 4.
We divided by 4. What did we do to the height?
We divided it by 4.
So if we divided both of those by 4,
It's 2 units squared.
So it's, yeah.
Wait,
One
1
unit.
unit?
Because you divide it by 8.
no.
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 I
You divide it,
understand.
By,
you divide it by
By
4
8.
and then by 4 again.
and then by 2.
So we cut the base by 4 and the height by 4.
But then you have to cut it again because
And a
it's
half.
half of the height.
We already accounted for that because that 1/2 is in there.
Oh.
But then we cut this by 4 and then by 4 again. So if I told you that the, on this one here, let's just write this on there. If I told you that ABC was 125 units squared, and I told you that the scale factor was 5, what would be the area of A prime, B prime, C prime?
It would be 20 for 5.
No, we're going up.
What? Oh, we're going up. It would be 625.
I have no idea.
3,125.
3,100 and what?
25.
So basically, we would times the length by 5 and the height by 5. So you multiply it by 5 and 5. I like to think of it as 5 and 5 because that's what we did. If we're talking about volume, we added a third dimension, we would multiply it by what? Another 5. The reason why we can just take the perimeter and multiply it or divide it by 4 to figure it out,
We're doing each one.
because it's just one, it's just the length.
Because we're
Okay.
doing-
So let me repeat. Perimeter,
Done.
Perimeter, you just use a scale factor. Boom. Area, it's got a length and a width. So you got to do it twice. All right, the next question. So notice that this one is got more information. It's not a reflection. What do you, so this here is our what?
Oh, we're just dialing.
That's our scale factor.
So you have to reflect first and then.
It's not a reflection. Reflection is a capital R.
That is a capital R.
By its, like, this is a sub R. So this is a dilation of 1/2. This is our center. R is the center.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's on away from there. It's just there.
So that's our center.
You just leave R there then.
Yeah.
R's left there, you just shrink him.
Is it the center of the rectangle or the center of the? It's the top portion.
It's this. So if I wanted to draw my lines, I could draw from here, and I could draw my lines, and what would I have to do? Cut them in half. And that's going to be our ordered pairs. Does that answer your question?
You don't touch R, right?
So if R is the center, then R prime is where?
R.
R prime is on R. It's the same point.
Like a window.
Now, the way they want us to approach this,
I did it.
you could draw it on here, and you could see it. But I want to point out to you that it basically cuts the slope in half. That's what we're going to do. Okay. Now, this one here, so it's how much left and right you move and how much up and down. So we'll start with R to Q. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 away from R. So it's got to be 4 away. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I want to point out that 4 is not part of this ordered pair. Okay. The ordered pair is actually -3 to +3. That is our Q prime. And, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. My bad. For T, it's I'll explain that in just a second. Now for S, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 away. So it's 3 away. 1, 2, 3. That's our S prime. And that's 1, 7. Now it makes it kind of easy because it's a rectangle. We know that it's going to be there, but I could have, if I only needed to figure out T prime, I could have said T is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of a horizontal movement. So it would have been 3, and then R down to T was 8, so it should have been 4. Okay. Now, what is the area
12 unit squares.
of QRST?
48 unit squared.
6 times 8 is 48 units squared. So then, without doing any, I mean, we could look at the shape and figure it out, but what do I basically do to that? Yep. Yep. So just so you know, you could be asked a question given this and given without this, and you know the scale factor. without the shape, you got to know that you basically like times it by that number twice or divide it by that number twice. So now we're going to still, here's our scale factor, is 1/2, but our center of dilation is 2, 1.
Can we just name that like
It's
5?
B.
Name it what?
B. A, B, C, D, F, G.
I would call it C, but you can name it whatever you want. So now we gotta do the movement is a little bit more involved. Okay. So to figure out where R is going to be, R is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down. If it's 6 down from that, it's going to be 3 down. So it's 1, 2. R is going to be there. But then how much over is it? It's 1, 2, 3, 4 over. So it's going to be 2 over. So R prime is right there. It's going to be 1, 4. If the origin is the if the origin, hold on one second. If the origin is the center of dilation, what could I do with all these ordered pairs? Just cut them in half, right? But when it's not the origin, it's a little bit more involved. Sorry, did you have a question?
I thought that between R and B it was 0, 4 because it's 6 down and then you have to divide it by 3 and then it's 4 over and then you have to divide it by 2. I mean, you have to divide it by 2.
Oh, I put it in the wrong spot, didn't I?
Yeah.
It should have been 0, 4. Thank you. Sorry. So then S is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down.
It's 3.54.
And it's 2 over. So I think S should be here.
But like, it doesn't make a
No,
rectangle.
it's not 3.5 over. Oh, I'm.
This doesn't make sense.
Wait, isn't it supposed to go still? Never mind, you're right.
Okay, it was 2 over, so I cut 2 in half. It was 6 down, so I cut 6 in half. And S prime is there. Q is 1, 2 up. So it's going to be halfway to that. 1, 2, 3, 4 over. It happens to be at the origin.
And then T is at there.
He is at 30.
And T is at,
Oh, I need.
T prime is at 3, 0.
Well, I was counting 2, 1 as one of my dots.
So it's how far away it is. Okay. Cut in half in this case. If it was how far away it is times 2 or something else, then you use that same logic. You got to be either further away or closer. Okay. And when you're done, if I didn't have a rectangle, if I had used this original R prime, which was wrong, I would have gone, okay, that's clearly not right, and I could fix it. Okay. The last question here. So now they've done the dilation. So here is my A, B, C is here. That's my original. And A prime, B prime, and C prime. So first of all, I want to point out that my scale factor is going to be what?
Smaller.
A, B, C is that small shape. It got bigger.
Oh.
So you got to be careful.
Is it 1.2?
So it got bigger. Okay. So it's got to be larger than 1. First of all, I want to point out that it's going to be larger than 1. Center is where? The center is A. Okay, if the center is on the point, then that point doesn't move. So A and A prime are the same, so that's the center. The question is, how much did it move by? Okay, now, basically, I have to know what this length is, and I got to know this length, or one of them. Doesn't matter. This and this length. Okay, and what would I do with those? How could I find those? I could use the distance formula, and then once I know those two lengths, okay, it's going to tell you it can't be 2/3. Why?
Well,
It's got to be larger.
What?
E prime and A prime, B prime.
Oh, wait, no. Okay, never mind. No, I read it.
It would be really nice if this shape was what? On one of the lines. Okay, so if it was on the lines, you could just count them. But this one, we have to use this formula. For the sake of time, we're going to leave it there. Okay, maybe this, huh?
Wouldn't we just measure it with this, or if it's on the graph, do you have to?
Yes.
You could you don't get a ruler on the test. Okay, but you could measure by like just kind of. I need to tell you what this group quiz is. So this is tomorrow. Here's a new thing. Happy New Year. On work days, the first part of the workday is a group quiz. You walk in, the board is erased. You have as much time as you want until the bell rings to get the group quiz done. There are 4 questions. There are going to be 4 different people writing on the board. You guys all get to help. This is what I highly recommend. You go home tonight and you try to get this group quiz done by yourself. And then tomorrow you're getting these answers figured out. This is my addition to preparing you for tests. Okay? So if you don't understand something on here, by the end of the day tomorrow, I hope that you do. I will also put the online stuff for tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, what?